I'd like to give an example of how I practice every single day. So every day I go for a meditative walk. It takes me about 6 miles. And on my walk, I will make a phone call to someone that I love or someone that I want to make a connection with, but I also listen. I listen to the energy that's going on around me, and I pay attention in New York to all the people that are around me. And I practice, and I call it my practice walk. It's my 3 practices. Because when I'm walking and I'm paying attention to all these things going around, sometimes it's this tree is doing really, really well, give the tree some love. But sometimes it's an individual. In fact, in New York City, it's always an individual. My practice is how can I pull from the energy resource that is not my body, but the energy resource that is the energy around me in terms of non-living or non-human energy, and then give that energy back to someone who might need it. And so that's my practice. Sometimes it'll be a couple walking past me and they're arguing, right? And what I'll do is I'll walk past and it's like, what's that Bewitched character where she would kind of wiggle her nose, right? For me, my hands are very, very good. So I move energy with my hands. So I'll walk past and my fingers will kind of on their own kind of move, and I can feel them moving things that are going on around this couple that is arguing. And then I'll watch the couple, I'll turn around and I'll watch them and I'll see a moment of, it's fine, or something, right? So it's always an example for me to really tap in. But I'd like to give an example of that. I was walking and I saw a man who, if I were to diagnose his mental chemical deficiency, he'd probably be a little bit manic, but he was going through something, and he was fighting something, and people were walking around him. They were trying to avoid him because he was fighting. It looks like he's fighting with himself. But when I look at him and look at what he was actually doing, he was actually fighting an orb. And it looked like this ball of energy that he was actually trying to move away from him. And the fighter part of his brain was trying to defend himself. So when I looked at what he actually was looking at, what he was feeling, I moved the orb down. I watched it and I said, oh, that's not helping you at all. So I let my fingers go up and I watched it settle into the earth. And as I'm walking past this man, he's fighting, and he goes, and he just silenced himself. And in that moment, the orb was gone. Now, when I leave and walk around the corner, that orb might come back, but it would only come back if he asked for it to come back. But in that moment, it wasn't there. It left. So it doesn't hurt me to help others in these little moments of healing. And it's my daily practice. It's how I keep everything lubricated and moving. So another example, I was walking around the block and there was a man who was making these really loud sounds of a baby crying, like an infant crying. And people were walking around him and they were really annoyed and really aggravated. And instead of paying attention to the aggravation and the anxiety that people have around this individual, I decided to look in on what was going on for him. And what was happening for him is he was having a brain massage moment. He was making these audible noises because he had the visual of an infant that was actually his nephew in his mind for some reason. And he was making these noises because he felt like he was communicating to this little baby. Now the baby it was like a baby who had grown up actually. But for him, it felt like this mental massage. So everyone else would think, oh, this guy is crazy, this guy is cuckoo. But in reality, to pay attention to what was going on in his mind, he was just massaging his own brain. He was actually recalling a memory that made him feel really, really good. And there's nothing wrong with that memory. So what I tried to do in that moment as I'm wiggling my little magic fingers is to allow that memory to settle in his heart so he didn't have to massage the brain so much. He could just kind of feel it in his body, and he silenced himself. Now, I'm not saying that him silencing himself was because of me, but he silenced himself because he moved his own information from where it was in the mind to where it could be in his heart. That's actually a much more comfortable place for that memory to be for him.